The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to our Lunchtime Webinar Express series. We hope you had a lovely summer, and we're delighted to be starting off the new season with a great session on why participation is key to your marketing mix with Joolz Joseph. If you've watched any of our Webinar Express sessions before, then you'll know how this works. But before I pass things over to Joolz, I'll just give a quick reminder on some things and how you can get involved in the Q&A. So I'll be hearing from Joolz for around 30 to 35 minutes. We will then move into a short Q&A to answer some of your questions. Remember, you can post your questions for the Q&A at any time during the session by using the question mark on your control panel. So don't be shy, please pop your questions in, and we will look forward to answering some of those a little later on. Joolz has kindly agreed for the presentation slides to be available to download. So if you would like a copy, just head into the handout section to download them. And if you would like to share any thoughts about the webinar on the socials, you can use the hashtag you see on the screen, CIM events. We'd love to see your comments on the socials, so please do get involved and let us know what you think of today's session. Okay, so without further delay, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker for today's session, Joolz Joseph. If you'd like to turn your webcam on, Joolz, I'll pass things over to you, and the floor is yours when you're ready.
Hi everybody, so thank you for joining us today. As Phil said, and thank you Phil, I'm going to be talking to you about the 8th P of marketing, which I believe is participation. I came about this really because I've been a marketing consultant for quite a long time now, and I also lecture, and I realised that the more I was teaching the traditional 7 Ps, which I'll go into in a minute, the more I was feeling that there was something else that I needed to add in there. And I'm what's known as a pracademic, so somebody who brings together practice and academia. So today I'm hoping to give not just some insights as to why I believe this is the case, but also quite a lot of examples to provide inspiration on ways that you can utilise participation in your own businesses. I tend to use examples both from bigger brands, but also from smaller niche businesses, because I want to make sure it's relevant to everybody. But before I get into that, what I want to do is make sure that we can take a brief step back and look at what we're trying to do when it comes to marketing. So hopefully that has, just checking if the slide's going down, one sec. It will go. Oh, that's gone. Okay. So I don't like to overcomplicate things. So when breaking down, I believe the purpose of marketing is actually quite simple: attract an audience, sell to them, and wow them. So I just want to take a slightly closer look at how that happens. You've probably heard of the marketing funnel. I like to think of it as a marketing cocktail glass, but essentially it is the same process. There's a number of different versions out there, but they all essentially talk about the same thing. Prospective customers become aware of you as a brand. Some will then spend time considering your product or your service before hopefully making the decision to purchase. Some of those customers will then go on to become loyal customers and fans. as they move down the cocktail glass, the marketing techniques you employ will need to adjust to meet their needs. And the way in which these needs have typically been met is through the 7 Ps of the marketing mix, which help us to shift customers through the funnel. So quick refresh on these for you. The original 4 Ps were created by Neil Borden somewhere around the 1960s: product, price, place and promotion. Products and services, the items that you've created, the way you position them to meet the needs of your target audience. Price is what it's going to cost the customer. From a marketing perspective, this also includes things like seasonal pricing and specific pricing offers. Place is about where you purchase, so it might be online, might be in store, might be on the mobile. And today I think it's really important to consider the audience when you're looking at distribution channels. So my mum can no longer park my local station because she doesn't have a smartphone. It's not something that she can get to grips with. So that as a distribution channel has got a few issues. And then promotion is getting the word out, whether that is paid, owned or earned media. It's about getting that word out about your products. In my experience, this is what the layperson thinks covers the entirety of marketing. These concepts are best suited for product businesses, whereas service businesses, because they've got more intangible aspects of delivery, they had another 3 added in 1981 by Boones and Bittner, which was physical evidence. So visual cues to your brand of messaging, digital assets, office, storefront and packaging. Processes, so how you ensure your product or service is in the right place with the right people at the right time. And this includes both visible and invisible processes. And finally, people. Customer service and delivery are absolutely key today, and you need to understand your strengths and weaknesses in this area, both as marketers, but obviously as business owners as well. These elements are absolutely crucial to letting customers work their way down the cocktail glass. But one more thing is becoming increasingly relevant. And I strongly believe that from the modern marketer, there is an 8th P, and that is participation. It doesn't fall into any one of these elements, but actually it's quite central to a lot of them. There are a number of things driving the fact that participation is central to any modern marketing strategy. But I feel that the 3 key ones are social media, experiential marketing and social proof. There's another of other trends that I've dotted around here that I also think have an influence. Participation isn't new. We've been getting involved in conversations and activities that matter to our audience for a long time. And marketing has kind of come full circle. So many years ago, it was about the business owner getting to know their customers. And I think it was around 1872 or something. The first mail order catalogue was introduced because Aaron Montgomery Ward worked out he could use the railroad to reach more consumers. Then we had the 60s, this golden age of advertising with this kind of simple yet really innovative creativity, strong imagery, succinct messaging that really started to connect with customers on a bigger scale. Then we entered this mass broadcast period across TV, radio, magazines. That then grew so big, the media channels that we access grew so much in number that messaging then became diversified and diluted. And now tech is giving us the opportunity to do this more personalized approach, but on scale. And that's a different kind of effort. Relationship marketing is commonplace, as I'm sure you're all aware. And that's about getting your audience to know, like, and trust you, to connect with you. And that cannot happen without participation. I think it's also worth mentioning here that a lot of participation is focused on brand marketing as opposed to lead gen, although not exclusively. Some elements are very much about lead generation, especially the kind of product-led experiences that I'll talk about. But content marketing is a key feeder into these trends, whether it is brand specific or getting involved in conversations on podcasts and videos. So I'd like to start by discussing social media. Including in that is social commerce and the prevalence of influencer marketing. Social media for marketers is something that can be quite overwhelming. There is such a vast number of channels, but it is still important. And I don't think I know a single marketing person who isn't on at least one channel. We all know social media usage has increased. Western Europe has around a 79% penetration rate, topping the ranking of global social media usage by region. But with social media, you get better results if you're engaged in conversations with your audience. This isn't just about responding to comments on your posts, it's about engaging with other people's content, driving the narrative and responding accordingly. The other thing to consider with social media is the variety of channels open to you. So whilst Facebook still tops the charts in terms of numbers of users, it's also important to recognise that it isn't for every business. And a lot of smaller businesses seem to be finding it less effective for marketing because they don't have the ad budget to put in that will also help boost their organic posts. Anecdotally, I also seem to know quite a lot of consumers and brands who have boycotted Meta. So it's also worth understanding whether something like that is going to motivate your own audience. The clue is in the name. Social media is about interactions and relationships. We're not going on these sites to be sold to. We go on there to discover new things and communicate with our fellow humans. So when brands and marketers use it, they need to think about developing relationships, not just shouting at people and interrupting their day. With social media, you will always get better results if you're engaged in conversations with your audience. So I wanted to start with an easy way to do this. Engage when people mention you nicely. This is an example of a post I did where I said what I liked about the Huel emails and I tagged them because I always do. What I really liked was they replied with a simple comment from the brand, but also their content editor, which actually was a nice kind of personal touch. And that brings me on to another point about social media, which is the ongoing debate about personal versus company branding. Certainly, when I work with smaller businesses, having a face of a brand is more effective. LinkedIn personal posts regularly outperform company posts. So this is a small company, Protect Solutions. They do security, audio, visual. They have Paul, who is the face of their brand, the managing director, and they also have a company page. Regularly, even though they're putting out similar kind of content, Paul's personal profile has better results, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen the same. I think it's also the case for larger brands because you get more and more entrepreneurs and CEOs building that personal profile as a face of a brand because of social media. But that comes with the responsibility to get involved, participate in the conversations. And I think there is always a temptation to have somebody run your personal social media for you, but that can come across as very inauthentic unless you've got I know quite a lot of husband and wife teams who will do it, and one is running the other's social media and they know each other well enough. But if you're going to do something like that, I think it's really important to have somebody who knows you and your personality really well. And that brings me on to my next point, which is about personality on social media. A strong brand personality can really boost your marketing. So if you think about brands like Innocent Drinks, Booking.com, Nike, Dove, they have a lot of personality in their adverts, and this spills too, but it's typically further enhanced by their conversations and their posts on their socials. Social media is very different to advertising because it's not simply telling people what you do or how great your product is. You've got to somehow entertain people at the same time. It's more involved, it's more spontaneous. And you've also got to allow for kind of channel nuances. So what works on TikTok won't work on X, for example. For some brands, social media is a chance to show how supportive they are, that side of their personality. Cheer teams are really good at this. So I've got an example here from Twisted Cheer and Dance in Kings Langley. They regularly support and celebrate their athletes in the gym as they gain new skills across their socials, and that's common right across the cheer world. Incidentally, Twisted have got a team going to the American Summit in April and are looking for sponsors if anybody is interested. Your brand socials provide a really good opportunity for you to present your brand personality and message, but it has to be done in a real and relatable way for your audience. One brand that really excels on social media is Starbucks. They value their customers, they make a big deal about it. They use a lot of lifestyle photography with people enjoying their drinks. And that makes it much easier for the audience to connect with a product and humanises the brand. So a great social campaign that I really loved was when they had New Yorkers describing the city using Starbucks drinks. They also partner with a lot of smaller influencers and digital creators, people like fashion designers, bringing that human element into their stories with Starbucks twist, of course. They also humanise their suppliers. But what I really like about the way they work with kind of smaller level influencers, it kind of mimics what happens in their store, because they often have those local business boards. And I felt that that was a really nice way that they kind of brought that social supportive element into the digital side of what they do. And the personal touch, I think, is really important. So people by people. Both Bird and Blend and Costa Coffee are really good at helping you get to know the people behind the scenes at their businesses. It's a really good strategy for small businesses, but it can be done on a bigger scale. Adidas let you get up close and personal with brand ambassadors. This is a really entertaining video you can look up. They set up a pop-up store in London and had Derek Rose from the Chicago Bulls. He was sponsoring a new line of trainers, and he was challenging fans to kind of win a pair by jumping up to a 10-foot high shelf. Fans got to meet him. I think I had about 500,000 hits on YouTube. And bringing in that element of gamification or competition is a really good way to increase engagement as well. But participation is about getting involved with all your customers' motivations, their personalities, their preferences, and it's got to be on a wider scale. So it's on topics that go beyond your products and services. So one brand that I think is particularly good at this is Ben & Jerry's. Their social media content extends well beyond their products. They're really clear about their values, their beliefs. They are happy to comment on an awful lot of things, including political conversations. It's mixed with equally engaging content about their ice cream. It's not necessary for all brands to get involved to that level, but we do relate to brands based on their values, and that kind of engagement will facilitate more meaningful interactions. Another social media stunt Ben & Jerry's did that I loved was suggesting consumers tweet their want of free ice cream. They then delivered the free ice cream to a lucky few, having this sampling truck kind of show up at their locations, which I thought was actually a really good way. Again, it's social media, but it's creating that participation, that interaction. There's another really highly ethical brand, Girlfriend Collective, who they make fitness wear and lounge wear out of recycled materials. And their values are very much based on inclusivity and environmental. And it comes through in their products, but also in all their marketing. They've got the largest variety of models I have ever seen, and I love their products. And there's all sorts of social commentary campaigns. Gillette's The Best a Man Can Be, Dove and Superdrug with their Enlightening Body Image campaigns. What I like about these is these campaigns sit at the heart of what the brands stand for, and is a really good reason for audiences to engage with them, but they're not being salesy. Yeah. So marketing is about relationships in the modern world, and as well as being two-way, relationships need to provide something for both parties. So social media isn't about self-promotion, it isn't about automation. Let's face it, if you meet somebody on the pub and all they do is talk about themselves and how great they are, you're going to switch off. So in the same way, if you feel they're just repeating stuff where you think you're getting a bunch of automated messages, you're also going to lose interest quickly. So when it comes to social media, think about that kind of scenario. Mix your promo posts with other topics like tips, advice, posts that are going to promote your culture and values or give a sneak peek into the real brand. And of course, a little bit of entertainment doesn't go amiss either. So I want to talk about experiential marketing. This is a great way to cut through the noise and grab attention, creating memorable moments for your consumers. So this need for participation in these immersive marketing ideas is a massive trend amongst brands looking for a much more customer-centric culture. Really resonates well with millennials who are kind of experience-driven, and experiences often appeal to multiple senses. They are often delivered in real life, but there are some ways of doing digital ones. Now, again, experiential marketing isn't new. I was a 70s child. I remember Tupperware parties. I've still got a cupboard full of the stuff that my mum and dad have handed down over the years. Clothing, kitchenware brands, they've all used this party concept to sell products, and it is essentially experiential marketing. The best way is to share a little fizz to loosen the purse strings. But the discipline is increasing. 84% of marketers in the UK believe that brand experiences are the most effective way to engage their audience. And the goal of experiential marketing is about forging a strong emotional connection between the brand and the consumer by allowing them physically to participate in your story, your values, your offerings, and it can be incredibly effective when it is done right. There's a variety of experiences you can embark on. Networking events, product showcases, pop-up experiences, they all work across B2B and B2C. Of course, you need to think about your own audience. The first rule of marketing has to be put yourself in your customer's shoes. Think about the kind of experiences they will enjoy, the kind of experiences that they will connect with. And often the key to experiential marketing is letting customers see and use your products themselves. It's why so many food and drink brands do taster sessions in supermarkets. Lush bring the experience into their shops. They also do amazing customer parties. It's a great way to engage their audience. My daughters love going in and playing with the bath bombs in the water and making all the colour patterns. But it also keeps them entertained while I go and browse. Bird and Blend are a great example of a company that take it even further. They bring the experience into their product portfolio. I went on a blending workshop a couple of years ago, which was a gift. Spent a small fortune afterwards. Tried lots of different flavours while I was there, and I've got another one booked for November. Again, another present from my lovely husband. This time it's a magic potions brewing workshop and tea mixology. So I'm also interested to see how different that is from the first one, but I will have my credit card ready. For a less pleasant experience, Globetrotter, they got customers to dress up in their sports gear for a campaign. They then stepped them into rain chambers, dousing them with water and simulating harsh winds. Not the kind of experience I would particularly go for, but what I like about it is the fact that it is showcasing their products in a really immersive way. You can also create something that's a little bit more temporary, so pop-up experiences are great. Lego did this art of brick installation in London. It's over 1 million Lego bricks, over 80 art sculptures. They have Michelangelo's David, a variety of superheroes. What I like about this is the fact that it showed the consumer examples of the creativity that can come from their products. Of course, they've been doing that for a long time with Legoland. Another of my favourites was the M&M immersive New York tasting rooms, which they did to help them create new flavours. They decorated themed rooms based on the flavours. They had different M&M flavour cocktails. It was designed for social media, but it was an awful lot of fun. But not everything has to be so incredibly expensive. So if you're a smaller business, it may be as simple as a tasting at a summer fete. So Recorderlig Cider, they went to a summer fete and they took along some samples, but they did it with a bit of a twist. What they did is they asked participants to guess the flavour they tried, and if they got it correct, they were entered into a prize draw to win a crate of cider. So again, it's taking something to a slightly different level, adding in that gamification, making it a bit more interesting. And of course, one brand that is no stranger to experiential marketing is Red Bull, and they took it to another level with their extreme sports connection. They took a real life record-breaking attempt online, it's back in 2012 I think, when Felix Baumgartner did the highest skydive to over 8 million viewers on YouTube, which is just bringing in that experiential side and that social media side. So a lot of the experiences I've mentioned so far have been real life, but experiential marketing can also be done using tech effectively. So back in 2015, Google gave $5.5 million to non-profits around the San Francisco Bay Area. They let the public decide where the money would go via interactive posters that would use, let them vote for a cause they cared about. And again, it's using technology, it's embracing the technology and creating a great experience. very little to do with their product. One of my favourite examples has to be SNCF. It's the Europe is Just Next Door campaign. And look this one up, it's so cool. Doors in bright colours were pasted all around Paris in public spaces, and they were getting people to open them, and they then were portals, like flat screens, to another part of Europe, and they had the public interacting with mime artists or dancing or getting their caricature drawn, which I think was really cool. The recent Barbie movie, they used generative AI to let you become your own Barbie doll cover. A nice idea, didn't really appeal to me, but my teens loved it. So it's all about the audience. And experiential marketing can be really effective for B2B as well. So GlaxoSmithKline created a virtual reality experience looking at the full spectrum of migraine effects for healthcare providers, because they realised that clinicians kind of didn't really understand the detrimental impact of migraines on people's everyday lives. So after this VR experience, people had reported feeling a lot more empathy, taking more aggressive treatment approaches for patients, and of course that's where the GlaxoSmithKline element came in. Norton did something similar. They wanted to educate retail staff and customers in a more entertaining way. So they kind of went on the road with these 4 games rooms, like Zombie Escape and Jungle Run, sorry, to support educational goals that kind of were in line with their brand. So if you can get creative about it, then you can really get your audience and your potential customers participating with you in a big way. And then one of my favourite brands is Dove, and they, over the last few years, have really brought the connection in. They've created this whole self-esteem project focused on building up confidence in young girls through an educational program. They've got gaming experiences, they've got individual campaigns that fill into this. It's clearly a subject close to their heart, but their desired goal is really about connection, and that is absolutely key when it comes to participation, because by participating in those conversations with your audience, you are really looking at creating that connection with them. So experiential marketing needs to be relevant to your audience. You need to think about their values, their interests, rather than their demographics, to create a connection. Clearly, the more interactive you can make it, the better. And don't be shy, because big campaigns can make a big splash and can result in extra coverage and engagement. So the last of these particular trends that I want to cover is word of mouth and social proof. Word of mouth has always been one of the most powerful marketing tactics for any business. We're social creatures. Our opinions and decisions are typically influenced by the opinions of others. And social proof is where your customers are more likely to buy from you due to the actions of others and what they consider to be social norms. It was a term coined by Robert Cialdini from 6 Principles of Persuasion. Typically, it comes from one of 2 sources: our peers or influencers, so trusted celebrities, trusted experts or celebrities. And this has really come into its own with the rise of the internet, particularly social media, because it's enhanced the accessibility and the way in which social proof is delivered to us. So one site that has tapped into this phenomenon is TripAdvisor. This graph shows just how steep their rise has been over the last 10 years, where the number of reviews has increased dramatically due to our appetite and our desire to find out what other people think of where we want to go. The other thing is, it has definitely made booking a holiday a much longer process, because I seem to spend hours trading over reviews. Recommendations bring something to the table that traditional advertising doesn't, and that is authenticity. And I know that there's a lot of fake reviews out there, but if you can get it right with authentic reviews, then it's really going to be an incredibly valuable way of getting involved. And it's great because, again, it is about that participation. So experiential marketing, social media has been very proactive on behalf of the marketer. Social proof is bringing in that proactivity from your consumer. Again, it's not new. the use of testimonials, referral campaigns, celebrities has been around for quite a long time, because we've been aware of the psychological influence of others on our behaviour and have tapped into this to drive custom. One brand who's used this for a long, long time is Coke. So this ad here is from 1952 and features the NFL champions Cleveland Browns. They've also worked with people like Michael Jordan, Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe, Rita Ora. They have a huge relationship with a number of celebrities that will really help them drive that. And of course, using testimonials has been around for quite a while as well, but I think the testimonials, certainly in the Barbasol ad, feel a little less authentic than you would get today. But again, the rise of video marketing has seen the use of celebrities for their own personalities rather than just standing there looking at a product. What they're bringing now is the personalities of the celebs themselves. I think often they are playing up their personalities to make something a bit more entertaining. Booking.com, they did some work with Melissa McCarthy, Idris Elba, reviving the Booking.yeah slogan. And again, these are both Super Bowl ads. I think one of the key reasons for the success of these ads is that they chose celebs who didn't take themselves too seriously, because they don't either as a brand. Another kind of social proof is expert opinion. And we all tend to listen to experts, but not everybody has the same level of authority over us. So we feel much more comfortable using the floss sticks our dentist recommended, because we know they've got expertise in that area. So with this in mind, you can bring this into your advertising. Archie's flip-flops were designed by a physical therapist, I think he's in Australia, but they've also gone out of their way to get the podiatrist recommendation, and they bring this home on every page of their website. Again, there are shoes out there saying they're podiatrist recommended that do not have the same level of authority, that I can't even explain why, it just kind of feels ingenuine. So if you are going to go down this route, then look at how you're doing that, and the kind of people that you're getting to recommend as experts. Part of customer reviews is building up trust signals, and by including customer reviews on your website, you can obviously get a much more genuine experience, authentic experience. But what's really good is they can then give a lot more detail on the products. So this caftan is one that I eyeball. I love the review, very descriptive, goes into detail on the softness of the material and how that person uses it. You can look at bringing in Just Trust pilot ratings. So a lot of people now will look at the number of stars before they buy a product, and obviously Amazon have been doing this for a long time as well. But if it's below 4 stars for certain products, I wouldn't even consider it. And the other key to this is Google. So you've got your Google business, but you've also got Google seller ratings on paid ads. Again, look at this. This is a local brand, JC Wills and Probate. She's got 5-star reviews, which is great. And she's putting that across onto her Google, because that's where people are looking. That's where people are getting that information from. If you examine the factors that are most likely to influence a consumer to leave a review, you'll see a pattern around things like positive experiences, obviously, but it's a negative experience which got turned around, or businesses they felt went above and beyond, rather than just, yeah, this was a good experience. And when it comes to kind of using those kind of trust signals, using those kind of reviews, you need to get creative sometimes. So a few examples here. Bark Box marketing is just brilliant. They've made it obviously about the dogs rather than the owners. The Bravissimo, they've done a double entendre with the word uplifted. They're about bras, but I like the way they've kind of laid out an email which brings in the reviews and the pictures from their audience. So if you can showcase your own products or content with best of lists or customer favorites, that's another way to just kind of, if you haven't got loads of reviews, to just kind of bring in another way of looking at what may or may not be popular. There's a couple of adverts I came across on my Insta feed recently. The one on the left, very static, perfectly acceptable, nice picture, shows a product. The one on the right is a short video where the person is explaining why she bought the trousers, going into detail on the wide waistband, the comfortable fit, the size of the pockets, really showing the product itself rather than it just being a picture. I know which one got me more interested. And it's, you know, whether it is a genuine review or whether it has been set up to look like one, it looks like she's doing it from home. It isn't completely polished. She comes across as incredibly relatable. And I think that's a real secret to your social proof, because it's got to generate trust. You've got to make it resonate with your audience. It doesn't have to be perfectly polished, perfectly professional. And again, within the B2B market, case studies are a really effective form of social proof. Digital have a number of case studies on their page, but what I like about this is the fact they enable you to search based on your requirements, enabling you to tailor the experience, get the information you need. And with all of these, this relates back to participation, because it is a two-way street. Whether it is testimonials, whether it is reviews and you are replying to those reviews, or whether you've gone to the effort of talking to one of your businesses to generate a case study, it is about participating and getting involved with your customers in a way that you can then use that to tap into further customers. Social proof comes in many forms, but to work it must be authentic. I think making it community-led, particularly from a B2C perspective, is really effective, but it's got to be relatable. And I think that has to be the key now, is it's got to be something that is really going to resonate with your audience. So one of my favourite ads this year was Ben Affleck manning a Dunkin' Donut drive-through, quizzing customers as to whether they recognise his face from anything. Jennifer Lopez rolls up to the window at the end asking, you know, kind of, is this what you do when you say you're going to work? He's like, oh yeah, gotta go, guys. But what I like is that they then bring that in, kind of grab me a glazed. And the reason I mention this is because it brings experiential marketing, social media, and social proof together nicely. It's also very entertaining, and you know, because they're getting the audience involved because he is interacting and participating with live customers. They've got the social media because he's an influencer, and it's just a lot of fun. Probably one of the best feel-good adverts out there. So the key to everything is to put yourself in your customer's shoes. If you want to participate in conversations, you need to know what will be interesting to your customers, what will connect with them, and how you can get them engaged. Develop trust by communicating frequently, show patience, show respect, and treat it as any other healthy relationship. And the best relationships, of course, are two-way, which means that you need to get involved and you need to participate. So thank you for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you want to get in contact with me, my website is joolzjoseph.com, and I also have some online courses in there, and there's a code there, SIM20, that you can use to save 20%. Thank you.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Jules, for a really great presentation and some fantastic examples throughout of those various sort of three trends. We're now going to head into probably a sort of shortened Q&A session. We've already received some really great questions to get on the way, so thank you very much for those. But please do continue to post your questions and we'll try and get through as many as we can. Just a little reminder that if you want to comment on the socials, then you can use the hashtag CIM events, which we pop up on the screen again for you. Okay, Jules, the first question. If the 8P is now participation, where does that leave the previously considered 8P of partnerships?
So good question. I think for me, partnerships is part of participation, because, sorry, just click on that. Yeah, partnerships is a part of participation because there's been various other 8Ps in the past. There's been performance, productivity, but partnerships is a key part of participation. It is just one element, but participation itself is a lot bigger, a lot wider.
Okay. Next question then is, what tactics would you recommend for professional services firms above and beyond social media interactions?
I think any kind of events can be quite good. I think experiential marketing can be quite good for social media and for professional services. Getting involved with either running your own events or attending events can be as simple as going to networking events, which in itself is a form of participation. But you know, sharing your expertise, I think, is going to be key, because if people see you as an expert, if they see you as a thought leader, then they will start to come to you for the services that you offer as well. So that would be my key, is anything that is helping you share your expertise. Again, that, you know, a lot of people worry about sharing stuff on social media or other channels, but I do like to quote Joe Wicks, who started off giving an awful lot away for free and is doing quite well for himself now. So yeah, I would say showcase your expertise, get involved in other people's webinars, get involved in other people's podcasts, but also share stuff in an entertaining way as well.
Okay, there's one or two questions actually on the similar theme around examples of poorly executed participation. You know, some of the pitfalls to avoid. Any advice there?
I think the best thing is test it on your audience first. As much as I love Dove now, they obviously had quite a big gaffe a few years ago with an advert that was actually just came across really badly, and they got a massive backlash for something that wasn't quite the way it was presented. So I think that what you've got to do is think about, who is your audience? If you are trying to be too funny, or you're doing something a bit close to the grain, but your audience isn't like that, then that isn't going to work. So you've got to really go back to the first rule of marketing, which is put yourself in your customer's shoes, think about what's going to appeal to them. There's no point, if you're not a funny brand, there's no point in suddenly trying to get funny. And you've got to have very creative copywriters if you're going to do something like that as well. And you've also got to have the time. If you want to start engaging with people, then you've got to make the time to do that. It is not a quick, right, you know, we'll reply to a couple of reviews or a couple of posts. You've got to make the time to do that. And if you don't make the time to do that, particularly if there's any kind of bad feedback, then you're going to miss something there as well.
Great, thank you. It's quite a specific on this one. What would you do via experiential marketing for a cancer rehabilitation support charity?
For a what, sorry?
A cancer rehabilitation support charity.
So I would probably, if you could, I think I would try to get people to meet some of the patients, or meet some of the relatives who can talk about the experiences that you know, the patients have had. So maybe some kind of open day, and also it doesn't have to be directly related to the cancer rehabilitation. So you could have a generic kind of event or a fete, depending on the space that you've got, and then have that kind of meeting the people come along, but almost kind of a fundraising kind of fete or something like that will probably be quite good, but you then bring that more serious element in. So that would probably be my first thought on that. But I think as well is something that is getting involved digitally, particularly if you've got patients who can't necessarily do much physically for a long time, is try to look at more kind of a digital event as well.
Great. Okay, thanks, Jules. I think we've got time for just a couple more questions. So an after question is, should you always participate with negative comments and responses on your content, even if they are potentially biased or inaccurate?
So I think it depends a lot on your brand. I've seen some really good put downs of negative comments. I think you've got to kind of play that by ear a little bit. If people are attacking your brand, so if you've, you know, a restaurant or a hotel and people are attacking it, and you feel that what they're doing is unjustified, and you know enough to answer them, then yes. But I think it's also key to be respectful, to kind of go on there and say, well, you're talking rubbish, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's going to work. So if you are going to respond to them, then do it in a respectful manner. But again, it can also turn things around. If somebody's had a really bad experience and you didn't know about it at the time and you feel genuinely bad, and you go on and say, well, I'm really sorry, this was happening or that was happening, but if you come back, then yes, we can give you a voucher or something like that. I don't think that's going to do you any harm at all. Years ago, I went to Wagamama, and they'd taken off my favourite dish off the menu, and I was given they had this kind of flowering tea, and you put a ball in the tea and it flowers, and my kids loved watching it, and they just gave it to me and it had already flowered. And I took to Twitter, and I didn't have a go. I just said, really disappointed with my experience at Wagamama today, because my drink was no longer an experience, it was just a drink. They actually got in contact with me, and to cut a long story short, they ended up giving me a voucher to go back again. Now, I love Wags, but I was just disappointed that day. So yes, they kind of got in contact with me publicly. It was just, really sorry about your experience, but we'd like to make it up to you. Behind the scenes, it was much nicer. Now, I wouldn't expect them to do that to everybody, because they're a big brand and everybody was trying to get freebies, but it was really nice to feel that my voice was heard. So if you are getting something that is a bad experience and you can respond in a way that is going to make them feel better, then absolutely do it.
Yes, that's good advice. Okay, the final question then. What effective ways are there for a smaller brand to dip their toe into experiential marketing?
So I think it depends on the brand, but I think probably one of the good ways to do this is community events. So think about things like school fairs, village fetes. It's a good way to try ideas out. The cider example that I gave earlier, I think, is a really good way to do that, because what you can do is you can just add an element of gamification. Another client I worked with a few years ago was an estate agent, and they had a Lego building competition. So what I did is I said, look, just hold a competition, make the top prize some family Legoland tickets, and send it out to the local paper and all the schools. And I think they gave prizes to the schools as well. And they didn't have that many houses because they were quite new in the area. So their entire shop window was filled with all these Lego creations. All the families came by, everybody had a look. They gave a few Legoland tickets away, a few of these great big Lego sets, and it really helped them instill themselves in the community. So it is thinking about what can you do in your local community, and things like schools. If you're aiming at families, school fairs, particularly primary schools, they are always looking for people to man stands. So if you can do something like that, create a stand. So we've had football clubs who've done beat the goalie, that kind of stuff. And then I think user generated content. Find a way with those loyal customers, those real fans, and get them to help you create some fun content, because if you're sharing their content and tagging them, they're then sharing it, and their friends will also likely get involved.
Okay, that's some great ideas there. Thanks, Joolz, and really practical examples of what you can actually do. So yeah, well, thanks very much, Joolz. That's great. Unfortunately, though, that's all we've got time for our webinar today. I would like to thank Joolz once again, and also the CIM East of England group for organising the webinar. We do hope you've enjoyed the session, found it interesting and worthwhile. You'll be able to watch the session again, along with all of our previous webinars, on the CIM YouTube channel. They're free to access whenever you want, so just head into playlists, find the Webinar Express folder, and you'll find them all in there. And two final things to mention before we finish. The first is we'll be sending out a short survey about the webinar, and we'd love to hear your feedback. All survey responses are anonymous, so please do let us know your thoughts on the session and what you would like to see from our Webinar Express series in the future. And the second, if you're a university student studying a marketing qualification, then you may be interested in the CIM Marketing Club. It's designed to help you get the most from your studies and prepare you for your career in marketing. Throughout the academic year, we run a series of tailored webinars to share the latest thinking, trends, and techniques in real-world marketing delivered by industry experts. We have a dedicated page on our website where you'll be able to watch previous Marketing Club webinars and access articles and insights from podcasts and our content hub. We also produce a newsletter providing relevant content, the latest innovations and concepts in the marketing industry, and which you can sign up to by taking a photo of the QR code on screen. Alternatively, you can hop onto our website and find the Marketing Club webpage within the qualifications drop-down menu. Okay, we'll be back with our next webinar on the 10th of October, when we'll be joined by Alex Murphy, co-founder of leading financial services digital marketing agency Balance. The event is up on our website, so head over to the events page for further details and to register for the session. So it just leaves me to say a final thank you to you for joining us today. We do hope you enjoyed the webinar. Take care, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.